Welcome, everybody, to the Risepreneurs podcast. I'm your host, Taryell Simmons, and I want to thank you for your journey to this platform, however you found it. I'm extremely thankful and grateful. 2020 has been a heck of a year, to say the least. I can say this for a lot of us. It's probably forced you to grow. It's forced me to grow. And it's definitely, if you haven't sat back and reevaluate, reprioritize, re-strategize, and rethink everything in your life, it's definitely made you pause to really acknowledge where you're at, where we're at in the world. The main reason I really wanted to start this podcast is, for those of you that don't know me, I've been in the workforce development space for, I would say, about 8 years. And I've done everything from doing programs for youth, opportunity youth, for military veterans, refugees, you name it. I've been able to work with different companies, HR, to build these programs throughout the state of California, specifically, mostly in San Diego. And this year did more increased focus work on diversity, equity, and inclusion. 3 years ago, I had the opportunity to be in a startup weekend, little company named Google. You guys may know of it. Met individuals from there, Google, Techstars, and Startup Weekend. And they reached out to me and they wanted some help promoting entrepreneurship into the Black and brown communities. And I was like, of course. And he's like, Taryell, you should really participate in this. And I did. And lo and behold, I won this pitch competition. So it was my first time really formally being introduced into the world of entrepreneurship. Got to meet with angel investors, and it's been quite the ride. But in this journey, I met some extremely amazing and brilliant people of color, just doing just dope shit in the spaces that they're in. And I remembered meeting these people and being in awe of their greatness, and also seeing that there's something that we carry with us, and that's sometimes we don't even see our own greatness. And I remember the days of me, and I still make an effort to do this even to this day now, to go out to the high schools and community colleges to talk to youth, especially youth of color. And there's a quote in one of Beyonce's video in Homecoming where it says, basically in a nutshell, you can't be what you can't see. And our youth, even us as we grow up as adults, we have a hard time seeing past our imperfections or seeing us doing greater things, because we don't see enough of us doing it. Or when we do, we only see one of us doing it. So we think it's an anomaly or one of the chosen few. And the things that we do see repetitive of, like in sports, there's so many more things that we can attain to be and do outside being athletes and being actors or entertainers. Not saying not to do those things. If that's your passion, yes, go for it. But I wanted to see us in different spotlights, and I realized our stories are not being told enough. We're not being seen enough, not only for this next generation, but even for our own current generation, just to believe that it's possible. And now we have a female Black vice president, and it's just amazing just to see. Now we have a female Black vice president. It's just shattering all barriers and breaking that glass ceiling once again. Something I never thought I would see in my lifetime. And as a father that has a little girl, it's just a beautiful conversation to have, to let your baby girl know that, baby girl, you could be anything when you grow up. That's even a president someday. And for her to really see that representation is so important, because she sees somebody that looks like her, and she can now truly believe that there's a space for her there. So important. And that's another reason why this platform is so important to me, just so we can see more of us in these different spaces, just doing amazing, dope shit. From scientists to engineers to business owners to artists, then some in career pathways we're familiar with, some maybe in craft career pathways and businesses we never thought existed or seen Black people in those spaces. But representation is so important. And I can't highlight and stress that enough. You can't be what you can't see. So this podcast is going to highlight Black and Africans, especially those Blacks in the diaspora. And my intent is intentional for that because I was raised by a Nigerian man. My biological dad, who I didn't really get to know that well, was not part of my life. And so I'm lucky that I had someone to call a father. And I really grew up in Nigerian culture as a Black American man. But often, as most of our Blacks in the diaspora, we lose connection with those roots, right? And I just happen to have those roots right there in my household. But the unique, funny thing about that is, as a Black man growing up in Nigerian culture, as a young man, depending on how I was identified in these two groups, in the Black culture, I'm identified as Nigerian or African. I'm not a part of the group, right? They looked at me as like I wasn't accepted. It was like, get out of here, you African booty scratcher, and every other thing that we identify in Black culture that we want to separate ourselves from, our roots. And then if I'm looking at the Nigerian side, I wasn't fully embraced or accepted because I wasn't Nigerian enough. I didn't know the struggle and everything else that came with that. So it left me in this weird paradox where I wasn't enough for either side. And spent a lifetime going through systems, school systems and so forth, where I was never enough. And it wasn't until I got to the latter part of my late 30s, early 40s, after going through different leadership programs, where I started to find the resolve and work through all those things that made me not enough and feel like I was enough, even though we're constantly working in systems that would say otherwise, right? So I hope this podcast highlights more of us, and we have organic and healthy conversations to talk about what we're going through and hopefully inspire you, let you know that you are enough, you have what it takes, hopefully inspire you to do and build a career that you love or a business that you love. And as you'll hear me say throughout the podcast, do what you love what you do. Don't chase the money. Let the money chase you. And what I mean by that is when I started doing more of those things, instead of going the route that, my parents or career counselors told us to go into this degree or career because it'll make you money. The more I started to do the things that I love and I was passionate about, it seemed as though the more money, the more influence, the more just abundance I had in life. And it's funny how that works. And hopefully I can help you do that as well. Or these stories will help inspire you or give you the tools and resources to do that as well. So that's me, a little bit of my story in a nutshell. I'm pretty sure more will come out as the podcast will go. I just wanted to give you a warm and brief introduction to the podcast. Thank you for taking the journey. Look to get some more interviews, some more resources and tools that we'll add on the website. And thank you for growing with me. Welcome to Risepreneurs. In this podcast, I'm really hoping to reshape some of those limiting beliefs that we have on what we could be and what we are in a society that often views us as less than, and then sometimes perpetuates that into a mindset that we often feel less than. That mindset that we sometimes have in some of our communities of abundance, around abundance, and have more of that abundance and growth mindset. Because sometimes we have, that crab in a barrel mentality where there's not enough, but in reality, there's really enough out there for us all to succeed, for us all to thrive and to share and grow together. I'm also hoping that we can also touch on and celebrate the uniqueness of all these unique talents and gifts that each and every one of us have if we tap into it and build that connection, the connection between Blacks and Africans in the diaspora, Nigerians, Haitians, Somalis, Ethiopians, Jamaicans, Trinidadians, all my Blacks out there. Because when we truly lean into each other and build with each other, we grow each other. And, that's my hope with these conversations, to build connections, build wealth, build abundance, shift mindsets. Because when we look into each other and we help each other rise, when I rise, you rise, we rise, we all rise. Welcome to Risepreneurs.